A very good morning. My name is David Batshoffen. Welcome to In Conversation With. And today, here on Travel and Things, I'm in conversation with my cousin, Barry Hilton. Barry, how you doing?
Hey, David. How you doing, man?
Very well,
Great.
thanks. Where do we find you today?
We find me in my lounge in Amanus with my beautiful wife and my son and my dogs barking and whatever. And I want to tell you, we are in a different world, David. We are in a
indeed.
different world, and I am enjoying it.
You are?
That's the
Do you
coolest
have a
thing.
view of the
Yeah,
sea from where you live, Barry?
I do, but it's upstairs out of our beautiful balcony. We see the whole of the bay.
Oh, that's stunning. Now, before we go anywhere, I have to talk to the poster that's behind you. A very young-looking Barry Hilton.
I was 26.
Was that one of your early gigs, Barry?
That was my first photo shoot ever. After my first gig. In fact, I had a gig, and then I had to go take this photo shoot, and then have some stuff printed and take it with me. So that was my first gig ever.
How long ago was that?
1983, but it was actually shot in 1982 in preparation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
yes, it does. The world wasn't ready for Barry Hilton yet in 82.
No. I want to tell you something. It was a lot of times in my career that the world wasn't ready for me. Maybe we can talk about that. The times I've been slagged off and, please, rubbish and da-da-da-da-da. But, you know, like we were chatting about that other oak who apologized for the whole nation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You've got to...
Yeah.
If somebody says to me now, if somebody says to me now, you're a cuck comic or you're an old comic or you do this, and I say, yeah, great, but I've been doing it for 37 years. So when I ask you to pay my mortgage, give me a shout. Until then.
How did the cousin come about, Barry? Was the
short story is no, I did. Yes, I did, but accidentally. I forget people's names. Yeah, no, I forget.
I'm sorry,
I
who
forget
are you?
people's names, David. Yeah. So all my life, because I've got serious ADHD, which we only found out years later, obviously, I could never remember people's names. But I had this knack to befriend people. It wasn't something, it's just you naturally, if you can either befriend people or you can't. It's the way it is, easily. And then people would say, who's this guy now? And I'd say, oh, it's my cousin. Because I couldn't remember what his name was. And then when I eventually got going, and I worked at the infamous runway bar in the airport Holiday Inn. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Holiday Inn, the airport, the runway bar. And the runway bar was full of previously advantaged people. and a lot of Lebanese folks who said, my cousin. So when I got on stage and said, how's it, my cousins? Boom.
You did.
Then they assumed I was a Leb, so they gave me. So I look Lebanese, or I look Jewish, or I look Greek, or I look thing. I used to do a joke about that. I could say to me, "Are you Jewish? Yes. Are you Lebanese? Yes. Are you Portuguese? Yes. Are you Greek? Only from 7 till 11, bro." So, which might be now taken as a racial slur, but I don't know.
Should we flash a little sign up that says, please be aware that certain people may be offended by something in the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes that we're going to be speaking?
Do you know what amazes me is David? What amazes me is lots of times in the past, but thank heavens it's gone now. In the last 4 or 5 years, perhaps, I would get a call from an agent and say, listen, we really love you, Barry. It's fantastic. Could you refrain from this, and this? And I say, well, I don't do that anyway.
Mm.
And they would say, yeah, we know that, but we've had a request by the thing. I said, okay, fine. So I said, what about if I say the F word and all that? No, that's fine. And I'm thinking, this something out of kilt here, because I don't curse, as you know, on stage.
You don't.
But what I'm trying to say is, they were saying it's fine to curse, but don't say anything that might offend anybody. And I'm thinking, first thing, then you're offending people in my mind. Okay, but it's the way it is. Johnny Noble started me off on that. If you keep it clean, you'll always be in the scene. And I'm still here, Oaks.
I was about to ask you about that, because I know when I was doing stand-up, if I was having, and often my daughter would come with me, and at the end of my set, because I very seldom swore on stage. And in fact, I seem to remember opening for you one evening at what was the old Hysterics many, many years ago.
That's right, Hysterics, yeah. That bloody egg from Tintin.
There you go.
Mark
And
Lewis.
my daughter would, after my set, she'd say to me, "Dad, you didn't have a good time tonight." And I'd say, "How do you know?" And she goes, "Because you started swearing." And she knew that the moment I went into that I wasn't having a great time. It's not the right way to go. And I admire you for that, because sometimes, you know, often there are comedians that I listen to who only use swear words, and if you take out all the swear words, they've got no material, basically.
Yeah, well, but you know what? Each to their own. I've got no problem with that. It's whatever. You know what? The underlying thing, you're a comic. We know that you're a comic. You're acting. You could do radio stuff. You're doing travel shows. You do this. You do that. But if you noticed, you always get detractors to say, "Oh no, man, you're cuck. No, please, rubbish. No, rubbish." So it used to upset me that. I remember once reading an article in the paper about me that's saying, "Oh, and Barry Hilton's pathetic one-liners." Okay. Now people say to me, "Oh, can't you tell me those one-liners, because they are so sharp." So imagine if I took that to heart.
Yeah.
If I took that to heart and didn't do one-liners anymore. And if I can tell, I just got interviewed by a huge radio station, not yours, it's not you, because I'm doing a show there in Dubai in November. I got interviewed, and the guy said he actually knew more about my career than most South Africans. This is a British guy who's interviewing me about stuff. He's checked this, he's done that, he's done this, he's done that, he's done that. And he said to me, there was a write-up about me in one of these magazines in England, because I went to England the one time to do a show specifically for South Africans, specifically. Okay. Yeah. And this guy arrives, and I'm saying to him, "Can I help you?" He said, "Yes, I'm so-and-so for Chalkle Comedy or something." He's a critic for Chalkle Comedy. And I said, "Look, I appreciate you coming here. I really do. But there's a room full here of African people talk about African issues. So basically, you're not going to understand." Okay. So the guy said, no, I'm well versed and all this stuff. I said, "Okay, fine. Do it." So the whole interview, or the whole show, I did an hour and a half to all of these South Africans who were screaming and falling around. Even the stage personnel were having a great laugh. This plonker writes about me the next day. He says, "You know, this guy is he's definitely not international material. He's this, he's that, he's that." And I said a joke about when you go to London, you worry about the sexual preferences of taxi drivers, because as soon as you get in a taxi, the door locks. You've been to London, that's the truth. And then this big British guy turns around and says, "All right, love, where can I take you then, love?" So that was the joke. You know what I'm saying? I said, "Just drop me in a corner." But he called me, back those days, he called me the term then for like being homophobic. Then I realized afterwards, guess what he was, you know? So people should just listen to other people and say, "Hey, dude, I came here to discuss about South Africans. Don't judge me on that." And that's what he did. So cut a long story short, the guy that was interviewing me now on last Friday, or last Saturday he said to me, "I read the story that this guy says that you're crap and you've got no talent and basically that affected me quite a big deal when I wanted to go to the UK, because people would look up on that review." So you know, so the guy said to me, "What are you going to do the next time, you know, now you're going all over the world?" I said, "Well, the first thing I'd like to do is to find that plonker and give him a good old fashioned, you know, that's what I want to do." Because what does he know? What does he know? So if you spend your life worrying about what other people are thinking about you, you're not going to get anywhere, because it's, I mean, look, we all care about that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm still around.
And
This is my 37th year. I'm still around. And so how come if I've got no talent, why am I still here?
Yeah. This is the thing. We start to believe other people's versions of ourselves, Barry. And at the end of the day, like you say, it does affect you. When I was
and there's
working
very
with,
few critics, I think. Sorry, there's very few
yeah,
critics that actually can't take things personally. They all seem to have a personal, instead of having a wide view. But carry on. Sorry, I jumped in there.
no. I was just about to say that's exactly what you know what they say. Those who can do and those who can't teach. And it's I think the same with many critics. They believe that they can be funny, and if
Yeah.
they don't see your
Those who
funny as
can't
their
teach,
funny,
criticize. Yeah.
that's
Yes.
exactly it. So they become critics. And I think
Yeah.
very quickly your viewing public, certainly your audiences, have learned to differentiate between reviewers or critics who know what they're doing
Oh, please.
and critics who are just being miserable. They had a bad night, they didn't get a free drink, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
So now they take it out
But
on
I'm past
you.
that now, David.
And so you should be. After 37 years, I wonder where that critic is from all those years ago. If he's actually still working.
He's probably still in his room writing reviews about how comics are. But get on the stage and do it yourself if you're that good.
Yeah.
You know, if you're that good, get on your stage. Like, okay, listen here. You can get a guy like what's his Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
Who can be a judge on a panel and say to a guy, you know, this isn't up to scratch, but it's crap. Why? Because Gordon Ramsay is a world-class chef. He's proved his bones. He's got his stripes. Okay. Yeah. But this other plonker that was doing these things is a failed comedian. That's what he is.
Are there still venues?
Anyway,
you mentioned, sorry, I spoke over you. You mentioned about the Runway Bar. Are there still venues like that where you have to do combat comedy, Barry, where you've, like the working men's clubs in England, where they fight back?
You know what? When I get youngsters coming into the comedy game, and times have changed, David. Times have changed, so the rules have changed. But I get guys who've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And you say to the guy, what do you do? No, I'm a comedian. Oh, really? How long's your set? I can do 5 minutes. Well, how many times do you get work? Well, I only do open mics. And I think, okay. So, you know, and I know the combat comedy, that was so hard, but so rewarding.
Yeah.
And that's why I strongly believe one of the biggest reasons I'm still around is I came through that unscathed. It was flipping hard, bro. But I'll never forget once I was at the combat comedy room. That's a very clever line, David. I like that. Combat comedy. I was at the Runway Bar.
You can borrow it, but you've got to use my name when you say it, Barry.
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah. This is from David. By the way, my name's David as well. So anyways, so I'm on stage. And it's funny how things go on. There was a guy that had just obviously had come to South Africa, a British guy, because all of the British guys used to be in the air freight. Do you remember that stuff?
Yeah.
And then this guy sort of said out loud, you wouldn't last 10 minutes in England like that. It was a Scouser. And I said to him, is that why you emigrated? Boom. I nailed this thing. And you know what? He actually came to me afterwards and he said, mate, I was out of order. He said, son, I was out of order. I'm sorry. You're actually quite good. And then we became friends and we still are friends. So how's that? But so because I answered him back, the combat comedy, but I didn't swear at him. I didn't upset. Is it? That way you
yeah.
So if you've worked back in the days, people would say, this oak, that oak survived the Runway Bar 6 times because I worked there for 4 years on and off, you know. And would you know? You see, you can laugh about it, Dave, because you know there, you've been there. Do you remember when we first started working at Hysterics?
Yeah.
And all the new blood was coming through, and they just thought they were the bee's knees. And I got dissed by one of the guys in a shopping center before I went to Hysterics. and said, "Oh, your time is over, bro. You crap." And I said, "Is it? Okay." So I went to hysterics, and that idiot Mark Lewis gave me an open mic spot. Do you remember that? Gave me an open mic spot. Now, bearing in mind, I've been a pro for 10 years already. So he gave me this open mic spot, and I went on stage and I destroyed them because of experience.
Yeah.
And the people that were dissing me were thinking I'm still in the runway bar telling jokes, two Irishmen and what. But I was doing that to survive, because you couldn't do observational comedy in the runway bar because the guys would just boo you off stage. You know what I'm saying? So what these other folks didn't realize, that we have other ammunition, and it's called, the main ammunition is what you've got, but the holster that it's in is called experience.
Yep. And it's also called
time.
It's also called reading the room, Barry. If you step up and you crack your first joke,
absolutely,
whatever it might be, or you tell your first story and there's deathly silence from the audience, you've got to take cognizance of that. You don't have to change your entire routine, but you've got to draw breath and just go, hang on a second. You know, the
do you remember
room
Johnny Noble?
Is telling me something.
You telling me words that Johnny Noble told me. You've got to work the room. The room will dictate how you work. And there's another thing Johnny Noble told me. I said to him one day, because he gave me the up.
Right.
Johnny, am I disturbed? Clock there, bro?
No, go ahead.
Are you there?
Yes.
No, so Johnny Noble. No, Johnny Noble. Actually, I said to him one day, Johnny, when will I know that I've actually made it to a level? He said to me, when you can go on stage for 30 seconds without saying anything and the people will laugh.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's how that thing came on. Do you remember? When I go on stage, it's a thing I do. I walk on stage. Hello, how's it? I go and I open my water. I have a sip of my water. Then I go across to the mic. I adjust the mic, and then I go, my cousins. That's my opening. And then people laugh. Why they would laugh at that, I have no idea. But every time that happens, I think, oh, Johnny Noble, he gave me great advice, and good luck to him. He's still going, by the way.
That's wonderful. I'm always happy when the older comedians, pardon me, are still working. But a question on that. Now I've lost my train of thought. I know what I was going to ask you. Do you
Let's
have
talk about
sort of
women and sex and things like that?
A standard gag that has always worked for you, and then you go to a particular club, and that joke gets nothing.
Nothing. If I can give some light on that, there is a couple of gags that I've got that are killers. Okay, that I would usually use it in the middle of my set, or at the end of my set, or maybe sometimes at the beginning of the set.
Right.
But you've got to work through that, David, because what happens? You tell this joke that you know is going to kill, and it gets nowhere, and you got it. Then you sort of analyze yourself. And only people that have been on stage like ourselves, we can analyze our whole life in that split second. What have I done wrong here? Have I done this? What have I done? And then you learn to say, okay, that one didn't work. Own it. That's what I do. If something happens, it still happens. I might make a joke that's really funny and doesn't work for one reason, for some obscure reason. And I say, oh, well, okay, sorry, guys, what happened with there? Let's try again. Because if you're honest with the people, then they seem to appreciate it. I remember working. Go, please.
No, go ahead.
I remember working in Australia. And Australian comedians liberally use curse words all the time. They just go mull. It's like part of their stuff. They got it.
Yeah.
So, but there's some words in Australia that are you can't say that. It's different cultures. So I was doing this joke about sperm and all that stuff, a nice joke. And my tagline, people were laughing. And my tagline was, the sperm goes up to the egg after 4 days and says, "What's up, bitch?" Because that's the way I see it, like an arrogant thing.
Yeah.
The audience dead, boom, like that. And I looked at them and I said, is it a problem? And one of the ladies in the front was on a cruise liner in Australia. She said to me, that's a very bad word. And I said to her, hold on. I don't curse. I don't do this. I don't do that. She said, no, we know that. We like that about you. And I had a conversation with this woman. She said, but the B word is not so. And I'm thinking, okay. So I took a lesson from that. So every time I saw her on the ship, I'd say, what's up, beautiful lady? And she took that and laughed. So I took that as an example. So you've got to learn that. And back again to the guys who've got 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever comedy, they seem to forget that you have to have stage time, bro.
Yeah.
Do 1,000 shows and then come and tell me you're a pro.
You know, we seem to be hovering around hysterics, and I think it was the beginning for a lot of people who are still working in the industry. But one of my
absolutely
Chris Forrest, I think Al Prodgers was there. I'm just trying to think of a couple of the others. They'll come.
John Vlismus.
No, John started before because he was in Durban already. So John was, I think, pro
Martin
before.
Jonas.
Martin Jonas. He had some lovely work. He had some stuff that would be so politically incorrect today, but it was a lot of fun then. But I remember one of my early sets there. You know, we used to come from the bar area. You come down the steps and then you step on stage. And I ran. I was so keen and I was so happy to be there. I ran, put my hand out for the mic. As I took the mic from whoever the MC was, my foot caught the edge of the stage and I hit that stage face first, Barry. Mic in the air. I didn't damage the microphone, damaged my face, and the audience, there was deathly silence from the audience. And much like you say, you're going to read the room very quickly. I sat up, looked at them bleary-eyed because I was sore. And I said, you know, I've been practicing that entrance for a week and it's still not working.
And bang.
Bang. I could have read them the telephone directory for the rest of my set.
Yes. You see, that's a sign of a pro. You took that and you turned it and you made it happen in seconds. Well done. I applaud you on that, young man.
But there is, I think, for people who go and watch comedy.
Brilliant opening line. You know that, David?
Sorry?
That's a brilliant opening line. I could actually
but I wasn't,
see.
I wasn't going to fall on my face every night, Barry. It was sore.
No, but you can do, if you learn how to fall, it's okay.
I know.
There was a guy who used to fall around like that back in the 60s. Was a guy called Norman Wisdom.
Oh, I remember.
In the UK. And he always was falling around. So people loved it. But it's a very clever entrance. I mean, okay. You know, I've been practicing this entrance for the last 2 weeks and I still haven't got it right. So, let me try again.
Yeah, I'll go back to the back of the room. Come running down again.
And then you come out and say, no, I've changed my mind. Hi. That's a very funny entrance.
Yeah.
That's
Barry,
very funny.
With everybody being in lockdown now, have you done any online comedy events?
Yes. I've done quite a lot.
And how do those work for you when you're not in the room with people?
Very, very well. I'm just wood on a fire, David.
I wondered all of a sudden I had a picture of your stomach.
Yeah, and it's a large picture.
Yeah, for people who are just joining in and wondering whose rear end we're looking at, it's Barry Hilton's.
Yes, and I'm not a plumber, not yet.
Not yet.
So, what were we talking about?
I asked you about doing online comedy.
No,
if you've done online gigs.
Comedy, okay. Yeah. I've done plenty, but I took a different direction, if I may say.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't charged anybody anything.
Right.
I've done all my shows for free. Because my logic is this: if you charge somebody for to watch you, you have to deliver the goods, you have to deliver new material, you'd have to deliver a new prospect, whatever, outlook. When I go on stage, I say, hey, what should we talk about? And then people say, do this, do this, do this, do this. So I do it. So how can I charge them? Because it's fun and we're having a jaw. So, but it's paid dividends to me. It really has. So it's really good. And I love it. You know, everybody looks at problems differently. You know, I had a problem for 22 years and then she divorced me. So you look at it differently, don't you? I mean, it's the way it is. So online is a very daunting thing. I'm actually doing three-minute sketches tonight that I've been commissioned by Comedy Central. In fact, I'm doing it this afternoon at 2 o'clock. So I've got these three-minute sketches I have to go through and perform live. I've written the sketches and I've made a plan, and so I'm performing it tonight.
Oh, that'll be wonderful. How difficult is it in these strange times to find new material?
Strangely enough, David, I sit down and I start tapping on my computer. Then I get this bundled garbage of words, basically. And I have found a good oak that I share my thoughts with. And then he comes back and says, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? And at the same time, he says to me, I've got this. And I go, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? So we sort of reciprocate.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Bounce off each other. Yes, it's a nice guy. And so I do that and I put it together. And it's funny, I've written lots of stuff for the new age of comedy, if you will, because I can see myself doing maybe I would like to do, I'd like to, a once a week show for 15 minutes. I've got these characters that I've got this really cool character that I do. It's on the telephone. It's a guy called Jerry from Joburg. Okay. But Jerry, and you know one of these guys, you've got a guy like that who, you know it, he actually is a stupid, they're funny. Does that make sense to you?
Say that again. I lost some of that. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, Jerry from Joburg is a guy that talks about normal things. In his brain, they're normal, but to you, they are hysterically funny because it's like so stupid the way he thinks. But he doesn't think he's being funny. He's being, you know, like one of the things I wrote there. Yo, I've got no problem with the petrol nowadays, because my car, I can't understand it. Since lockdown, I haven't put in juice once. But you get guys like that, bro. And I know a couple of guys like that. The one who said to me one day, out of the blue, this is a couple of years ago, and I used it. He says, you know what? I know why engines are so popular. And I said, why, bro? He corrects, because every car's got one.
And as you say,
I said to him, what do you think? And he said to me, no, but that's fuel for thought, though, Barry. That's how he talks to me.
But you see,
he's funny, this guy, but he doesn't want to be funny. He's just funny in the stuff he talks about.
He just is. It's the same as our Minister of Transport over the Easter weekend, I think it was. He came after the Easter weekend, he said road accident deaths were down compared to last year. And you're sort of screaming at him, of course, because we're in lockdown. Nobody's gone anywhere. It's not less accidents,
saying,
less cars on the road.
There's less cars and less idiots. Did you notice how when they, look, I've got no problem. You want to smoke, smoke. You want to drink, drink. Be my guest. Be my guest. Do your thing, what you want to do. But use a little bit of common sense and don't drink yourself into a stupor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because did you see the very same weekend after lockdown was lifted, there was massive amounts of deaths and violence at home and things like that. So, I mean, you can't say, okay, there's no alcohol now. You can't really do that. But I'm saying it should be pushed onto people. Have a drink, but be my guest, but be sensible about it.
Yeah. Trouble is, human beings aren't sensible any longer, Barry. This is the
Well, do you know what?
problem.
Have you ever checked? I got quite large 2 years ago. I got up to almost 120 kgs. And I went for my medical for the monster year. And my doctor said to me, did you know you're heading for diabetes? And I said, I am. Why? She said to me, seriously? You're eating chocolates, you got cake, you're not exercising properly, you're doing this, you did that, you're doing that, you're doing that. And I went, oh, hold on. I don't want that crap. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, I started exercising more regularly, and I exercise and training today. I don't know what I would have been out. I don't have the copious amount of chocolates and sugar that I used to have and whatever. But if I had have ignored that, I would have been diabetic now. So
Yeah.
it's the same principle.
Yeah.
You know, can you bring me a Mars bar?
There's a very famous South African doctor, bless him, Prof. Harry Seftel, who always says, everything in moderation, David, everything in moderation. Fish fiber fowl. That's all you need to worry about, but everything in moderation. And that's exactly it. Fish fiber fowl.
So he doesn't eat red meat.
Yeah, you can eat red meat, but again, in moderation. You know, we South Africans.
In moderation.
We like our braais, and we like having half an ox to share between two people.
You know what? I had a problem with my internet the other day, and it was quite funny because I'm jumping up and down with a service provider, and they said, no, but our line from us to you is perfect. Mm-hmm. So therefore it must be beforehand. So eventually I got through to OpenServe, to a guy who happens to be a fan of mine. And I said to him, dude, I've got no internet. What is the score? My service provider to my home says it's perfect. It's perfect. And then he comes back to me, phones me back about 20 minutes later. He says, Barry, how's it? I said, how's it? He said, I know what the problem is. I said, what it is? He said, some thieves dug up 200 meters of cable the night before, okay, and chopped the cable to take it to the scrap merchant for copper. But when they got to the scrap merchant said, this is glass. They had to put a joint in. Now on that fiber, there's like 1,000 lines.
Yeah.
So they had to join all these lines one at a time. So these tits were probably walking down the road with this 200 meters of fiber wrapped around their flipping elbow, saying, I must be strong nowadays because I could never carry this before. Jeez.
Barry,
so you got to laugh at that, haven't you?
No, you have to, because if you don't laugh, you're going to just go mad. Are there, or do you have a website? If people want to find out more about Barry Hilton and performances, yes, and maybe some online clips, is there somewhere that they can go to have a look?
BarryHilton.com, and then you can go to my YouTube channel. Just type Barry Hilton in YouTube, you'll see it, and people can do that. BarryHilton.com has got most of my stuff there. I'm busy with a digital business card that I bought in November, and I've amalgamated all of my businesses onto this one digital business card. It should be ready now in the next week or two. It was ready in December already, but I've changed it 4 times to really try and make it better and better.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so they can go on there. So or they can go to my official Facebook page, Barry Hilton Official.
Okay.
Or they can just send me their banking details and their PIN code, and I will gladly.
Just before I let you go, what about all the braai equipment? Do you still have no gaan ons braai?
What I did, well, a year ago now, I started building my shops and put my focus on online. And I had 2 shops that I sold subsequently to people that wanted to use them as they become resellers. So that is what's happening. I'm getting resellers. You can actually plug that for me if you will. If anybody wants to become a reseller, they just have to contact me and say, I want to resell your clothes, because there's a fabulous margin. Because my logic says I'd rather have 20 or 30 people reselling my clothes and they can make some money. I make a very small amount, but then all I do is print and post. So that's like it. So, that's the way the world's going, David. You know what? I remember you and I, our first interview, probably 25 years ago, we sat in a stuffy, flippant studio downstairs at the bottom of SABC. You had to go there. It took you about half an hour to walk there, and you had to have a flippant map, like an A to Z, to get to the room to remember those things.
I've got news for you, Barry. There are still people that are wandering those halls, gaunt, bleary-eyed, going, "How do I get to Studio 2?" Because they can't find it.
But look how things have changed, because
They
now
have
we're both sitting from our lounge. I mean, you got Clint Eastwood over your shoulder looking after you. That's pretty good.
All sorts of wonderful stuff here.
Look to your left.
Yeah, no.
Look to your left. Clint Eastwood.
Done by my very famous father-in-law. This is a Dorf Fiddler original.
Oh, wow.
One of his early advertising pieces that I've been given.
That's brilliant.
So there you go.
So how's it going nowadays? Because the only travel we can do now is, I think you should, I'm going to start selling LSD, because then you can go on a trip. That was a joke I just made up.
Bada bing. Don't give up your day job,
that's
Barry.
quite funny, isn't it?
When people say to me, what do you do? I say at the moment, I'm a non-travel travel writer.
Okay.
And I'm making up stuff as I go along.
Say, how was it?
So, but we'll see. Hopefully soon the roads will reopen and I'll be able to get out and about.
Yes, you'll be able to get out there.
Yeah. Barry?
I actually been pushing Sandy. I want to get one of these huge RVs because of the way we can do things now. I said to Sandy, why don't we get an RV with a big satellite dish on and your homeschool jack, and we can go down country? What a jaw.
What a jaw. You can park behind mine.
Okay, cool. David, you're a star.
Barry,
my house is on fire.
Always
good. Smoke coming out of my chimney.
Always good to talk to you.
No,
Take care.
Okay, my friend.
Cheers,
I will talk to you soon, David. Thank you so much. Ciao.
Cheers for now.
Bye-bye.